I let it roll like a big wheel in a Georgia cotton field. Honey, hush. I didn't come in this house, stop all that yakety yak. I didn't come in this house, baby, stop all that yakety yak. Come fix my supper, don't want no talking back. Well, you keep on jabbering, talking about this and that. Well, you keep on jabbering, talking about this and that. I got news for you, baby, you ain't nothing but an alley cat. Turn off the waterworks, baby, they don't move me no more. Turn off the waterworks, baby, that don't move me no more. When I leave this time, I ain't coming back no more. Honey, hush.
August 2nd, 2021 public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission. Welcome everyone. My name is Zachary Greco, Chair of the Commission. If you're here to present a project, you will have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. You should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. Staff will then present the staff report, and we will then ask for any public comment. Following your presentation, the commissioners will be asking questions in the same order as your presentation. Please state and spell your name clearly if you are here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments, because 3 minutes go by very quickly. Following public comment, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. The only comments which will be allowed after the public hearing is closed will be in response to any questions from the commissioners. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based upon the City Ordinance Chapter 27 of the City Zoning Code, the Design Guidelines, the Secretary of the Interior Standards, and the Historic Preservation Development Review Comments, HPDRC, and then the testimony given at this public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibilities. Owners and agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and/or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence all cell phones. And at this point, I'll ask my fellow commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my left.
Shauna Boyd, interior designer.
Ashley DeCubas, attorney.
Brent Taylor, building contractor.
Your microphone is off.
It was on. My name is Stephen Sutton. I am an architect. I hold the architectural historian chair.
Dan Myers, architect.
We're also joined here tonight by city staff, Ron Vila, Elaine Lund, Beverly Jusek, and Kamari Pettis-Mackle with the City Attorney's Office. At this point, would a commissioner like to make a motion for the July 12th and July 14th, 2021 meetings to be put into public record?
Yes, sir. I would like to place a motion to accept the meeting minutes for the Architectural Review Commission meeting date of Monday, July 12th, 2021, and meeting date Wednesday, July 14th, 2021, as presented.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners, and welcome. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Under announcements, we have two. In your packets, we have the staff reviews for the previous month. And then also, as an announcement, we are going to hold our Wednesday night public hearing. We do have a full agenda for this Wednesday. Moving to conflicts of interest and ex parte communication, we'll rely on legal.
Good evening, Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. Will the commissioners please state whether or not they have any conflicts of interest regarding the items that are listed on the agenda?
None.
None.
Thank you. Additionally, will the commissioners please state whether or not they've had any ex parte communications regarding any of the items that are listed on the agenda?
None.
None.
Thank you so much.
Moving to continuations, we're going to need two separate motions. They're being continued to two separate public hearing dates. The first motion that we're going to need is ARC 21-381. This is for the address of 839 South Newport Avenue. This was requested by the agent to balance our this month's agenda to the August 4th, 2021 public hearing at 6 p.m.
I move to grant a continuance in case ARC 21-381 for the property located at 839 South Newport Avenue to the August 4th public hearing at 6 p.m.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes.
And the next motion is for the remaining continuations. The first one is ARC 21-451/REZ 21-67. This is for the address of 330 South Hyde Park. This was requested by the agent to be continued to the October 4th, 2021 public hearing at 6 p.m. And the second continuation to that same public hearing date is ARC 21-312. This is for the address of 713 South Orleans. This was also requested by the agent to compile additional information to the October 4th, 2021 public hearing at 6 p.m. And one motion for those two.
I move to grant a continuance in case ARC 21-451/REZ 21-67 for the property located at 330 South Hyde Park. And for ARC 21-312 for the property located at 713 South Orleans Avenue to the October 4th public hearing at 6 p.m.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you for those motions. Moving down the agenda, we're going to the swear-in. Everybody that wishes to testify, please stand up and raise your right hand. Ms. Beverly Juzak will swear us in, and that's including staff as well.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are providing this evening is the truth and nothing but the truth?
We're ready for the first case.
Good evening, Commissioners. Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation Staff. The first item that we'll hear tonight is case ARC 21-296. This is in the Tampa Heights Historic District at 2510 North Central Avenue. This particular property is a large non-contributing structure built in 1971, multifamily building. The request is for a vinyl-clad chain-link fence around the perimeter on the south and the east sides. I would like to note as we, before I move into the photo presentation, that this initiated as a code enforcement case for failure to obtain the certificate of appropriateness. And as we go through the presentation, I'll point out a little bit about the guidelines and the directions that are provided in the Tampa Heights Design Guidelines for you. So moving to the photo presentation, you can see on the screen here the subject property in green. You'll note that it is actually outside the National Historic District boundaries, but within our local historic district. This is the 1920s Sanborn map of the site. Michigan Avenue, which is Columbus Drive today, is to the north. Central Avenue is to the east. Jefferson Street is to the west. And this is the present-day aerial of the subject site. Again, with Columbus Drive to the north, Central Avenue to the east, and Jefferson Street to the west. So this is looking at the front, the north side of the site. So we're looking south here from Columbus Drive. You can see a good portion of the north facade of the buildings, and also a fence that was previously existing around the parking lot and the vehicle buffer area there around the landscaping. And then this is a shot at showing the parking lot with that fence around it, the previously existing fence. This is an image showing the fence a little closer, so you can get an idea of what the design of the previously existing fence was, or is. It's still there. And then looking in the opposite direction, looking a little bit southwest here in this shot. Moving around the property, this is looking at the western side of the property. You can see the parking lot and the previously existing fence in that shot as well. Moving to the south, there's a little bit of an area that's used as an alley on the south side of the building there. You can see the previously existing fence with some screening, and beyond that, you can see where the new vinyl clad chain link fence has been installed, starting at the fence line, the previous existing fence line. This is just a view of the rest of the chain link fence down that side of the south side of the building. And then this is looking from Central Avenue northwest, so you're seeing the same portion of the fence but from a different angle here. This view is looking northwest along Central Avenue, so you're seeing the Central Avenue side of the building and the fence. And then we have a shot here looking southwest, so that you're getting the full view of the fence running along the Central Avenue side, and seeing where it ties into the structure toward the north end of the building. Moving back a few steps, the portion of the fence that is in the rear, what the design guidelines have to say about that is that rear yards may employ vinyl clad chain link, but the vinyl clad chain link shall not be permitted on a portion of a corner lot that faces a public street that is paved and in use. Vinyl clad chain link fences may be used in the rear yard and shall not be installed beyond the rear building facade. Additionally, these design guidelines for Tampa Heights go on to say that fences or walls along the front yard and along the building facing the street shall be no higher than 4 feet. So that is from the front of the building all the way to its back, the fence should be no higher than 4 feet. And beyond the rear of the building, the fence height may increase to the maximum height allowed in the Tampa zoning code. So moving back to the photo presentation, this is the property directly to the west. And then west again across Jefferson is the Tampa Heights Elementary School. You can see the fence that it has along Columbus Drive there. that's got to be the rear of the property, sorry. This is definitely not looking at it from Columbus Drive. Excuse me. Looking north on Columbus Drive, this is one of the houses across the street. And we have a view looking east along Columbus Drive. And then looking west down Columbus Drive. This is looking north on Central Avenue. And then there's a view looking south down Central Avenue. And that concludes the photo presentation. So at this time, the agent may come forward and present his application.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. So I'd like to first start off by explaining a little bit about what this property is. It's a multifamily.
Excuse me, Kamaria Pettis-Mackle from the City Attorney's Office. Can you please state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Gavin Guinan. Do you need me to spell that?
No.
Okay. Agent for the owner of the property. It's a multifamily affordable housing complex. It's 100% Section 8, providing housing for low-income households. A little over a year ago, we identified a few security concerns with the property, and the vinyl-clad fence in question was part of a total overhaul for the property, including new cameras, new gates, and fencing the south and east side of the property. We had complaints and noticed that we had transient individuals on the south and east side of the property, using it as restrooms and other illicit activities. So this is where the whole idea for the fence came in. Now, while I don't think ignorance is a valid excuse, we were unaware that our fencing needed to meet any architectural review guidelines. Neither did our contractor. So it was installed this way in the most cost-effective and robust style possible. The fencing on the west side of the property is aluminum picket style, and we have found at this property and several other of our properties that those pickets are easily bent and pulled out, thus not providing great security, which is our utmost concern. That's why vinyl-clad chain link fence was chosen. We did choose the vinyl-clad thinking that it was more attractive. I know that there is other chain link fence allowed in the historic area. We thought the vinyl-clad would look better. It pretty much wraps up my presentation. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. At this point, staff will present the staff report.
Elaine Lund, Historic Preservation staff. Given that the fence is in conflict with the Tampa Heights design guidelines, which provide very clear direction as to the material and its location and height, staff finds this application is not consistent with the design guidelines. I would like to note that there is a letter in your packets regarding this application, and with that, I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the public hearing to any public comment. If anyone would like to speak either for or against. All right, seeing and hearing none, commissioners will now ask questions regarding the project. But, Commissioner Myers, would you like to begin?
Is the 6-foot fence along Central Avenue per code? Or does it need to be a 4-foot fence? Given whatever the material?
Yeah, per the design guidelines, the fence along the portion of the building facing the street should be no higher than 4 feet.
And it, no, I understand that it's along Central Avenue. My question is whether the 6-foot fence is a code issue or an issue relating to the historic district.
It's both.
Relating to the design guidelines.
I heard it's both.
Well,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chair. Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. I'm sorry, and Mr. Chair was trying to answer the question, like, to help guide what the issue were, but it could be verified by staff since we have your photo presentation. If you could just use your cursor to show where the
Yeah.
fence is.
Can we get that back on the screen?
It is.
Okay. Okay. So, looking at the whole building from the front here on the north all the way to the whole length of the building, this is the area that should be no more than 4 feet high.
And what's allowed in the back? 6 feet allowed?
6 feet, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so once you get to the back of the building, the fence can come up to 6 feet.
All right, I have no further questions.
I have no question at this moment.
I have none at this time.
None either.
I have no questions as well. All right, at this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for a rebuttal.
I have no rebuttal.
At this point, we'll close the public hearing. The commissioners can now discuss the case. Would a commissioner like to begin with the discussion?
It seems to me that there's a code issue here, and so there is no reason, I suspect, they have to take down the fence along Central Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, along the building and all the way to the corner of the building. And then as it moves to the south, it seems like the 6-foot fence is permitted, and it is also permitted to be black vinyl chain link. And so they have requested, it seems, that the 6-foot chain link fence along Central Avenue be permitted as well. And it's a code, well, it can't be more than 4 feet high because of the code, and it can't be chain link because of the historic designation.
Correct.
Right.
And can we get a clarification from staff on the alleyway? Is that considered public? I noticed that it was paid. I mean, does that fall under the same guidelines as?
It's the rear.
On this one, no. So on this one, in terms of what's considered the front, is it's on what's facing Central Avenue.
Correct. Just wanted to verify.
I'd like to follow up with Commissioner Myers. I'm a little bit perplexed why we're actually seeing this here at this point in time.
Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the City Attorney's Office. So, Commissioner Sutton, we're here because a code violation was initiated to say that the chain link fence was built without coming before the board. So now that it's here, this applicant is asking for you to approve as it's built. And that's why it's now before you, because it wasn't brought before in advance.
Well, that's what I was getting at, was this fence actually permitted?
That's why we're here. It was not.
It was not permitted.
So my understanding is you don't technically need a permit for a fence.
You have to come here, depending on what you're trying to
Right.
do.
So the issue is it was constructed and does not meet the guidelines at this point.
I'll take that under advisement. Thank you, sir.
Commissioner Taylor, anything else?
I
Just-
don't think so.
I just have a question, maybe for Kamaria, about how we treat this in our motion, meaning, go ahead.
So it's we either approve the CA, in which case what they're proposing is to keep the 6-foot fence on Central Avenue.
And do a
If
condition.
we decline it, or if we deny it, then basically they're saying that it's denied, in which case they will have to redo the fence.
Okay, what I'm wondering is, can we approve it with a condition that the side gets fixed, or do we have to deny the whole thing?
The side that gets fixed, which side?
The side on Central needs to be fixed, the rear can stay how it is. Right?
And if, Kamari Pettis-Malco from the city attorney's office, and if the staff can just confirm for the board, the only side that needs to be removed per the code in the Tampa Heights guidelines is the fence that's located on North Central Avenue.
Correct. It is only the portion of the vinyl clad chain link fence. What the design guidelines state is that the vinyl clad chain link fences may be used in the rear yard and shall not be installed beyond the rear building facade.
Right.
And also that the vinyl clad chain link shall not be permitted on that portion of a corner lot that faces a public street. And then additionally, it goes on to limit the height of the fence along the building face to only 4 feet.
Okay, so
So
in-
for practical purposes then, correct me if I'm wrong, that we're dealing with a fence of an inappropriate material both on its street frontage on Columbus, correct? No,
Right, and Ms.
and the alley.
Ms. Lund, the fence
That's what I was
height
asking.
and material on Columbus, is that according to the Tampa Heights guidelines?
Yes, that is what is in conflict with the guidelines, the material and the height on the
So does the
portion
board-
along Central Avenue.
On Central only.
Central only.
That's,
Correct?
yeah. But on the alley, we also have material because it extends beyond the rear face of the building.
But it says it's allowed in the rear. Am I reading it incorrectly? It says rear yards may employ a vinyl clad chain link. So we
That
don't
is
need to
correct.
worry about the rear. We
And-
can
and
approve the
shall-
rear.
And shall not be installed beyond the rear building face.
I don't,
Ms.
we're
Lund, if
not
you
really
could-
presented with a case in my understanding that we can approve this in portions. Like, it's a certificate of appropriateness.
No, it's not.
I-
No.
Columbus
No,
was
so-
the original, what she was calling the previously existing fence.
Commissioners, if I may help clarify a little bit, so when we talk about the rear yard, that is the entire area from the back of the building to the property line. And then the front yard is all the way across from the front of the building to the property line, and the side yards are that space in between there. So when it says that, my reading of the design guidelines is that the fence can be chain link along the alley, not along the street, and then from along the entire building face, it can be no higher than 4 feet.
Right, that's how I read it too. So
Right.
the rear can stay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So my question then was just more of like a formality. If the rear can stay and we only need to fix the side along North Central, can we approve with a condition to fix North Central with staff's approval, final approval? Or do we have to deny the whole thing and then come back?
So Kamaria Pettis-Malco from the legal department, the only thing that is at issue is the height and the material of the area that's in the code by,
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
why
you're
we're
saying that the
here.
north, the rear is not even a part of this,
No,
is
'cause
what you're saying?
No,
technically
correct.
that meets.
Got
yeah,
it.
That meets the
requirement.
guidelines.
Got it, got it, got it, I'm sorry.
So we're only focusing on the north central part.
Gotcha, thank you.
Commissioner Boyd, anything else?
I have no comment.
Would a commissioner like to make a motion for this case?
I move to deny a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC 21-296 for the property located at 2510 North Central Avenue, because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is inconsistent with the Tampa Heights design guidelines for the following reason: that fences or walls along the front yard and along the building facing a street shall be no higher than 4 feet beyond the rear of the building. The fence height may increase to the maximum height allowed by Tampa zoning code in the rear.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you.
So Commissioners, Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Our next case is ARC 21-279 / REZ 21-48. This is for the address of 1502 South Howard Avenue. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District. Currently, there is a non-contributing structure on that site. Associated with that parcel, there's a PD in place. PDs are site plan specific. There's a new request coming in. The non-contributing structure will be demolished as part of this new PD request. And if you give me a minute to find my photos. Is that on everybody's monitor? Sanborn, thank you. So moving through the photo presentation, this is from 1929 Sanborn map. Property in question is highlighted in the green area. You see in 1929 that there was very little building construction along the Howard corridor, which is here. This is Bayshore Boulevard to the south. As you come up Howard to the north, property question is a challenging parcel. You see the dimensions of the parcel. This is in between Howard, Hills, and DeSoto. On DeSoto in 1929, it shows a period structure here as part of this PD request. They're going to look to redevelop the parcel in the green, and this period structure is indicated on our map as non-contributing, so this structure will be demolished as part of this request moving forward. This is just to show the vicinity map. It's in the lower southern quadrant of the overall Hyde Park Historic District. Once again, you have Bayshore Boulevard and Howard as your main corridors. This is the outline of the property in question. Once again, you have Howard, you have Hills, and then DeSoto. This is showing the geometry of the parcel, and it also includes this period structure that also is non-contributing, so this green area should have extended a little bit more. You have Burns Park to the north as a reference point as well. This is looking back at the structure that's in place currently. In the foreground, you have Howard. Just working our way down Howard towards Bayshore Boulevard, a series of photos that I'm going to share with you. This is the non-contributing structure that was built in '57. Looking at the retaining wall that's here and a portion of the rear of the structure. Looking at the vehicular access off of Howard. once you get into what was considered the parking area and some of the solid waste, there were some additional coolers for storage, some multiple structures that will be demolished as part of this request. This is looking at some new construction. This is, once again, Howard Avenue towards Bay Shore. This is looking across Howard. And a period structure across Howard as well. This is looking down the Howard corridor. I showed some photos of the period structure, which is here, non-contributing structure across the street. This is looking down Howard to the south. Subject site is to the left. This is looking down Howard to the north. I'm going to go back one shot here. This is kind of showing Howard Avenue, showing the pedestrian right-of-way on the, I'm going to call that the west side of Howard. But looking towards the subject site, you have granite curbing. You have a parkway as a recovery area for the pedestrians. You see somebody jogging here along the sidewalk. In my staff report, I mentioned rebuilding the pedestrian experience, planting trees that are in cadence with the environment, but also know that you have power lines above the planting strip on the subject site. This is Burns Park over here. This is across Howard to the west, and then the planting strip is continued along Burns Park with the sidewalk. This is looking at the subject site. Now this is at the intersection of Hills and Howard. Around Burns Park, you see that they do have a parkway. They have the granite curbing, the parkway, and then the sidewalk. On the subject site area, it was used for many different fashions, but nothing that was sensitive to the historic district. As part of this request, I think you'll see through the site plan that they're going to recreate the parkway to eliminate the parking that's there. This is looking at Burns Park. This is looking back at the subject site. This was the period structure that I spoke about that will be demolished as part of this request. This is looking at the front of that structure that faces DeSoto. Just a little closer shot. I don't believe there is any curb cut along DeSoto to get into this site. And this is the most affected area structure that abuts this property. This is just abutting to the south along DeSoto. That concludes the photo presentation. These pictures could be here if you need them for reference point along the presentation. At this point, the agent can address the board. Thank you.
Could I ask staff and legal a question before we begin? No, I can ask. So it looks like we're only focusing on with the property that's on Howard, and it's not listed also for the property that's on DeSoto. Is that an issue in terms of it not being posted for?
Maria Pettis-Mackel from the legal department. I believe what Mr. Vila is stating is that all of this is considered from rezoning from PD to PD. And that's what you did notice for, correct? And that the agent, she's off of the microphone, but she'll come up and she can explain that she did give notice for the whole parcel to rezone from PD to BD, and that should have included the non-contributing structure on that parcel.
Okay. Thank you.
Good evening. Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson, representing the applicant this evening. I am the primary agent on the rezoning. That's why my name is on the ARC. I have not been doing the lead on the design. But just to briefly speak to you about the PD, yes, the entire parcel is part of the PD. We did notice the same area that we would notice for the PD, so that was all noticed. This is going from PD restaurant to PD single-family home detached. We are asking for 9 units. The maximum allowable density on the site would be 12 units, and we're at 9, so we're about 75% of the allowable density. And we are asking for 1 waiver. And that waiver, we're not sure we exactly agree that we require a waiver, but we've asked for it. It's a waiver for the 2 interior units, and Dylan Alderman, our designer, will go through those in more detail with you, but it's an orientation towards the right-of-way. Both of the units are oriented towards a right-of-way. There's just an intervening courtyard in between, and therefore we don't really think the waiver is necessary, but even if it were necessary, it is waivable by the zoning administrator, but we have asked for it as in our PD as an abundance of caution. We're not asking for any waivers to parking or tree removal that you commonly see in a PD infill. We are also providing 2-car garages for all of the units. We have 2 options under the Land Development Code for townhomes. We can either ask for single-family attached or multifamily attached. Multifamily only requires one car garage. The single-family requires 2, and we're opting for that standard. And that's a summary of the rezoning, and at this point I'd like to turn it over to Dylan Alderman, who's been leading all of the design and all of the issues that you care, that are near and dear to your heart, and I'll let him present those to you.
Can I remove my mask for this? No? Okay. That's the answer. Good evening, Commission. My name's Dylan Alderman, Alderman Planning Company. Do you need my address? No, okay. Well, the staff found our project consistent. Is this on?
It's on. Yeah, it's on.
Can you hear me? Is that good? Can we get that adjusted? Or should I turn it sideways?
So you
The adjusting
yeah.
mechanism is right here.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll turn them this direction. All right. Terrific. Okay. Staff found our project consistent with conditions. I'm going to review those conditions first. The initial condition was list and discuss all waivers associated with this request. As Ms. Corbett mentioned, the requirement is that the ground floor entrances, front doors to the dwelling units shall face a street right-of-way, not including alleys, rather than the side or corner lot lines. Additionally, entrances may face interior courts, plazas, or similar design element with the approval of an alternative design by the zoning administrator. The entries at issue are for Unit 5 and 6. As you can see, the directional arrows of those entries point to the right-of-way. If we're on Hills Avenue right-of-way looking at Unit 5, the door is clearly visible. If we're on the right-of-way of South Howard Avenue looking towards Unit 6, the door will be clearly visible. So I believe we've met the intent and spirit of this requirement and ask that you would approve this waiver. And I would like to note as well, we did design these around a garden courtyard, which was an alternative design that could be approved by the administrator. The next issue was revisit bay projections facing South Howard. Our initial submittal had bay projections with diagonal sidewalls with windows on them. We have reconfigured those rectangularly. As we look at the front elevation, the side walls of each bay are perpendicular to the face of the building. They can be seen projecting on the sides of the building here. The next condition, provide elevation from grade and setback on all street frontages consistent with block face. I'm going to begin with the setbacks. If this in green again is our project site, and the blue represents the footprints of the buildings that we propose to construct. On DeSoto, there's a great variety of building setbacks. We did field measurements and found an average of 20 feet, and that is the setback we're proposing for the building on the corner, the front being 20 feet. On Hills, our setback is proposed at 7. If we look at this building, which is closest to us on Hills, here, it has a 7-foot setback from the right-of-way. This is our project site here. This is across the street from us, across DeSoto. This again is our project site, and as Ron noted, the structure built in the 20s also has a 7-foot side setback. So I believe we're being consistent with the built environment with our proposal on Hills as well. On South Howard, we're proposing multi-story, multi-unit buildings. These are pictures of some of the multi-story, multi-unit buildings in the vicinity of our project. You can see that this one's placed pretty close to the road. It allows some space for the steps to come up to the entry court. This one has 2 steps up from the sidewalk, but appears to be built right at the right-of-way line. The next one I'm going to show you, this is our project site. It's on Howard. And again, this building was built right to the right-of-way line. And here's a photograph of it at the sidewalk. And for those that are interested, this was the facade in the 1920s of that structure. This building on Howard is directly adjacent to the south of us. It's modern construction. It's set back from the right-of-way a considerable distance. However, if we look at the period buildings, this is our project site. This is Howard Avenue. Again, we can see that as this block approaches Howard, this is built close to it, right at the right-of-way line. That's the building I just showed you. This is a little further north on Howard. This building structure is shown on the Sanborn, built close to the right-of-way. This is the curb line right here for Howard Avenue. Same vantage point looking north. The next 2 structures, even though sidewalks are built at the curb, the right-of-way actually sits back a bit, so both of these are built in close proximity to the right-of-way as well. So if we look at the entire stretch of Howard, we see that our existing structure is built up close to the right-of-way. The buildings I showed you going further north are also in close proximity to the right-of-way. That's our site. This is a historic building to the south, and it's built on the right-of-way line. We've proposed a 5-foot setback along Howard Avenue to provide some green space and also to provide steps up into the units, which we think is appropriate for the architectural continuity of the neighborhood, which brings us back to elevation from grade. Looking at some of the random samples around us, this has like 3 risers up to the entry of this building. Here's 3 up to the walk, and then there's more up into the courtyard. I showed this to you earlier. It's got 2 risers up to the entry point. Our buildings are proposed to have between 3 and 4 risers up to the entry pad in front of each of the buildings. The house we're going to reconstruct on South DeSoto, we're putting the slab at the same elevation as the existing structure, so we'll have the same number of risers up to the front porch as the existing does. Next item, condition, indicate fence height, location, and materials. We're proposing a 6-foot wood privacy fence between our project and our residential neighbors. We're proposing a 48-inch high metal picket fence at this location. And then the red line represents where we're going to reconstruct the retaining wall that you saw in Ron's presentation. I'm going to show you photographs again as well. So if we look at the southernmost part of our parcel on South Howard Avenue, there's an existing masonry wall that we intend to connect to and then connect to our building on the south end of the building with the metal picket fence. You can see the retaining wall being restored along the front right away there. This is that same corner of the masonry wall I just referred to with the metal fence running north from that point. And here's the existing retaining wall. We propose to put a metal fence up similar to the one that's at the park off of Rome in the historic district. Further north along Howard Avenue, we still have the retaining wall running up to the intersection and turning. And here's a photograph of the existing retaining wall. And then on West Hills Avenue, we have it to approximately the point that it ends currently. I included this out of the guidelines showing we intend to step the wall as it comes up the grade, and we'll be incorporating a wall cap on top of our wall as well, and caps on our columns that are proposed at the intersection. So, masonry wall with precast cap is a typical retaining wall. Then the metal picket fence is similar to the photograph I showed you, and it'll rest on a one-course masonry wall with a precast cap. Next item was to add a note to the site plan, allow for a build-to line adjustment of 5 feet at the time of certificate of appropriateness. This is just taken off of the site notes.
Excuse me, sir, can you turn that paper so the board can actually read it?
Absolutely. That looks correct. Okay. So we've added note 15 to our site plan with the same language. Next item, show alternate location for mechanical equipment on DeSoto Avenue. Our initial proposal was to screen the mechanical equipment on, well, it's actually Hills. But we are going to move those units to the south corner of Unit 9. They'll be in the side yard adjacent to the drive aisle. Provide method of water retention for request. In redeveloping this site, there will be approximately a 3,800 square foot reduction of impervious area. This is a letter from our civil engineers stating that we won't be required to have on-site retention. We will grade all the stormwater to the adjacent right-of-ways. Provide final solid waste solution. Solid waste will be stored in garbage cans, which will be brought out to the right-of-way, just like all the other residents around us, and be collected curbside. We're proposing to build concrete pads out on the back side of the curb for those cans to rest on, and we put them in convenient locations for each of the building units. The solid waste will be stored inside and then brought out on collection days and returned to the garages on collection days. This is stated in the solid waste notes on the site plan. I don't know if you want me to leave that there. All refuse carts shall be stored inside the buildings in a place not visible from right-of-way or adjacent properties on non-collection days. That's what we intend to have happen. All right. Submit landscape plan indicating consistency with established environment. This is the site plan. If we look at DeSoto, we're proposing palms in the median, shade trees in the yard. Along Hills, we're proposing shade trees and a median. And then along South Howard, there are understory trees existing. We plan to infill the understory trees with the redevelopment where there's gaps, just to provide continuity with that planting scheme. So if we look at DeSoto, this is our project site. You can see there's palms along the median. We intend to plant palms out in the median. You can see a shade tree in the yard adjacent to us. We intend to put shade trees in our front yard as well. This is Hills. Going eastward or northeast from our project site, which is located here, you can see there's a wide median with shade trees planted in it. We intend to remove this parallel parking, put in the median with shade trees to provide continuity with the existing planting scheme. This is South Howard Avenue. Looking northward, corner of our projects right here, you can see the understory crepe myrtles, which we will infill to provide a consistent pattern with understory trees along South Howard. And then Ron showed you a picture of the park to the north. It's kind of got a unique planting scheme. Next item, discuss reintroduction of the parking along Hills Avenue. Our initial site plan included restoration of 3 parallel parking spots on Hills, but transportation objected to that proposal and asked us to remove them. So that's why we were putting in the greenway with the shade trees along Hills. We had meetings with the Hyde Park Neighborhood Association. I want to go over some of their concerns that they relate to us and how we're addressing them. One was the rooftop deck locations. So this diagram, these are our residential neighbors. This is the townhouses adjacent to us. The red represents open rooftop decks. We've oriented them towards the right-of-way. There will be a covered portion indicated in blue. And then the remainder of the roof decks can be for mechanical equipment. We propose to screen the areas with a view towards the residential areas, which will provide visual and sound abatement. This is a sample of what we propose. This is artificial vegetation and a planter box. This is the same product, just in showing a corner configuration. One concern they have is the building height. We're way under what we could build as far as building height. The highest building we propose is at 44 feet. Since we met with the homeowner association, or I'm sorry, the neighborhood association, we went back and the top ceiling height of every building has been reduced 12 inches, and that was reflected in the elevations that I showed you this evening. So we brought it down another foot since we met with them. As well, density was an issue. Ms. Corbett addressed the point that we could build 12.8 units here, but we proposed 9, which is under the maximum density. The building facade, our original presentation, some of the neighbors thought could have been more ornate or interesting. So I've proposed for our submittal to go with a federal style on the building facing Hills and on South Howard. And we'll maintain the Craftsman style building on DeSoto. Since this rendering was done, it doesn't reflect the reduction of the foot in the ceiling height for this building, but we brought that down in the plans. And then with that, I'm going to conclude my presentation. If Cammie wants to address anything.
Cammie Corbett again for the record. No, I think that summarizes what we've proposed, and if you have any other questions, we're happy to answer them if we can do so for you.
Thank you. At this point, staff will present the staff report.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff with Historic Preservation. Under Chapter 27, 113, your duties and powers with A to J, with regards to the application for rezoning, changes to land use classifications, or comprehensive plan amendment, to review, recommend reasonable land use changes to the extent necessary to preserve the historic integrity and appearance with what's in front of you this evening. Staff finds that this application is consistent with Chapter 27, 113. We had some concerns listed on our staff report. The agent went through, specifically through each bullet item. Our first concern were to list all waivers. He associated that there was one waiver associated with this request. They did modify the bay off of Howard Avenue to be more of a traditional application. The elevation from grade and setbacks are very important in lining the block face along Howard and any street within the historic district, and he provided that documentation to you. With the PD request that a site plan specific, the location of the fences and the height of the fences should be noted. The materials could come back at a later date during the certificate of appropriateness. We asked for a build-to-line adjustment. Through PDs in the past, we felt that it was a benefit to allow plus or minus 5 foot to get more of a quality project as a project comes through for the certificate of appropriateness. So that's why that item was addressed on the staff report. The location of some of the mechanicals that were indicated on the preliminary site plan have been relocated and are not visible from the public right-of-way or in proximity to the sidewalk. He touched upon the water retention. That's an early comment that we usually put in so that their team starts to evaluate exactly what technique they're going to use, and they're in discussion. The final solution will be at the time of permitting. Landscaping also is an item that we address through PDs. Our main concern is that there's 3 different block faces that are associated with this request, and the cadence along each street should be respected. The introduction of the parkway along Hills and the reintroduction of that parkway over time, probably through the prior use of it being a restaurant, it was eliminated and it was a drop-off area. It was a portion of that property that was used for a drop-off that is not consistent with a Hyde Park vernacular. So the reintroduction goes a long way in reestablishing the pedestrian experience. And then the width of the apron and drive aisle should be at a minimum. Any urban environment for the pedestrian, walking, bike, walking, riding a bike, or jogging should be reduced to the minimum. And we do have Jonathan Scott with transportation here if you have any specific questions for transportation. So to conclude, as we look at this, with our Hyde Park design guidelines, for new construction that are compatible with the guidelines, the first 5 criteria touch upon scale, which is height and width, massing and building form, setbacks, orientation and site coverage, and rhythm, alignment, and spacing is basically what's in front of you this evening, along with the conditions that staff had. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the Code of Ordinances under Chapter 27, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open up the hearing to any public comment who would like to speak either for or against. If you wouldn't mind lining up. I did notice there was additional people that have come in after we did the swearing, so if you have not been sworn in, could we do that now?
Anyone that has not been sworn, raise your right hand. Solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are providing this evening is the truth and nothing but the truth.
Hold on one second, Ms. Beverly. Sir, can you stand and raise your right hand if you're planning to speak? Okay.
We'll do it one more time. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will be providing this evening is the truth and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Pamela Jo Hatley. I'm an attorney. I represent the historic Hyde Park Neighborhood Association. The Neighborhood Association is not opposed to redevelopment of this parcel per se, but it is concerned that certain design aspects of the proposed plan development are not consistent with the Hyde Park design guidelines. The Neighborhood Association is very concerned that if not addressed in this Architectural Review Commission process, the inconsistent aspects of the plan development project might become entitlements that vest with the zoning approval that cannot be changed through any subsequent commission process for a certificate of appropriateness. There are members of the public here who are property owners in the historic district and who have intimate factual knowledge of the historic district, of the guidelines and the properties within the district, including the subject property. And they're here to speak to certain specific aspects of the proposed plan development that are inconsistent with the Hyde Park historic guidelines. They asked the commission tonight to focus on the historic district guidelines as they present their factual testimony on the inconsistent aspects of this plan development. Your job tonight is essential to ensure the historic characteristics of Hyde Park are not obscured by new development that is inconsistent with those characteristics, and to prevent a chipping away and eroding of the features that make Hyde Park, the historic Hyde Park, so unique. This is what historic preservation is all about, after all, and why the historic Hyde Park district was designated. So we respectfully ask that you pay close attention to the testimony that you're about to hear, and give serious consideration to the Hyde Park historic guidelines in taking your action tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kelly McMillan, the current president of the Historic Hyde Park Neighborhood Association, and we appreciate your allowing us to speak today and look forward to your careful examination of this special site. As a board, we have resolved to support redevelopment of the site as residential use, subject to the following criteria: maintain a parkway and right-of-way on Hills Avenue, design the Hills Avenue elevation to provide aesthetic front-facing view of Burns Park, maintain appropriate elevation for DeSoto Avenue and its single-family neighbors, adhere to the adopted historic guidelines regarding height and massing consistent with adjacent residences. Lastly, we need clarification, mechanical, solid waste, and post box placement to limit negative impacts on neighbors, since 18 containers will be in use. I'd also like to add that while the designer installed 9 dwellings onto a small space, I can't say it's unique or creative. With regard to Hyde Park, it is clearly inconsistent in height and architecture, specifically inconsistent with surrounding dwellings on 3 of the sides. Its wide driveway and garage openings facing the park is notably incompatible with the historic district and lacks regard for a community park we enjoy and have invested in so greatly. Renderings of the Hills elevation were not available. We've had a conversation with the applicant, but it seemed obvious design standards are not necessarily a priority. His agent provides no historic reference in the final narrative, and suggesting an upgraded property value to the surrounding dwellings is a questionable statement. We're all invested in the community, and we feel this particular design ignores the factors that made Hyde Park significant. This once failing neighborhood regenerated after the 70s in a positive way, thanks to the impact of this board and adherence to carefully developed guidelines. We have great confidence our ARC will feel empowered and compelled to apply the design standards of Hyde Park, the Secretary of the Interior, and the comprehensive plan. And I may also point out, once it's recommended for approval to City Council, as Pamela Jo said, it cannot be changed. So the existing PD has never been enforced, and we hope to not repeat mistakes of the past. We've all got a dog in this fight to respect and maintain the character of Hyde Park, and we hope for conscientious care when you evaluate this application. Thank you.
Just have a minute to do. Oh yeah, that works. Our 20th century technology. Good evening, my name is Patrick Cimino. I'm the Vice President of the Historic Hyde Park Neighborhood Association. I live in the Historic District, and I want to make reference to some of the code as well as to the comprehensive plan mainly to show how the proposal does not adequately consider impact to the historic neighborhood. And I think I'll reiterate what Kelly said about, we really have not seen some of the elevations that would address our design concerns, especially on Hills Avenue. Here are 3 citations from Chapter 27, one with regard to compatibility to the surrounding area, second one with what should be permitted, should be considered for both the comprehensive plan as well as code and the guidelines. And the third thing is, which Ron already cited, but to review and recommend changes that are sensitive to the historic area. This is from the comprehensive plan. It says, and this is in reference to partly our neighborhood, we have a preponderance of single-family homes, and we consider that the character of our neighborhood. We respect that there is other types of housing. This, the next slide is a couple of citations from the comprehensive plan about development being in harmony with the surrounding area and to protect particularly the street grids and alleys and other components in that level. So what is our concern here? I mentioned the single family. We have concerns about the height exceptions, which are noted in the application. The examples are the Georgian, the Dakota, and Nick Bay Place. Georgian and Dakota are historically very significant. They're both front-facing the street. The Dakota has setbacks equivalent to what's already in the neighborhood with the other houses. Neither of them have any kind of rooftop decking. Nick Bay Place I wouldn't regard because it's really not in the historic district. So there is concern with regard to the historic district. We have no precedent for rooftop decks in the historic neighborhood, and we don't want to set that precedent for the nuisance issues that some of the other neighbors will mention. And finally, and we'll hear a little bit about the history of Byrne Park, which we've contributed a lot to. This is an elevation of Anderson Park on the south side, and you can see there are townhouses, they're front facing, and just a tiny cutout. We're very concerned about that elevation and its impact on the park. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to submit my information, and then my wife is coming up.
I'm Alan Shelton. I'm going to yield my time to his wife, Sid. It has to be a form to fill out to get the minutes. We're looking for a form now. Is anybody else going to yield their time tonight? Can you say who you're going to?
My name is Lisa
What-
Zarek, I'm going to live in Jordan Street, and my name is Tina Lopez, and I'm donating my time to that.
We're going to have a form going around. Please fill out the form. I think we could go forward and get the paperwork away.
Hey. Good evening. I'm Cindy Cimino, and I live at 604 South Oregon Avenue in historic Hyde Park. I'll be speaking tonight about Byrne Park, which is just south of Byrne Steakhouse at the intersection of Hills, DeSoto, and Howard Avenues. More importantly, this park is directly across Hills Avenue from the proposed residential townhouses. Burns Park was formerly known as Luna Park until March 2003, when former Mayor Dick Greco joined with others in changing the name to Burns Park in remembrance of Byrne Laxer, the owner of Byrne Steakhouse, who died in 2002. The City of Tampa, a coalition of neighborhood associations, nonprofit organizations, the restaurant, and the Laxer family worked together to transform Burns Park from a nondescript, barren triangle of land to a lush threshold between the local restaurant district and historic neighborhoods. After several years of planning, the City of Tampa contributed hardscaping and landscaping. Over 8 years, several neighborhood associations raised more than $30,000. Members of neighborhood associations, HHPNA, HPPI, and BGNA volunteered their dollars as well as time and effort planting this lovely memorial urban park. Burns Park is just one of many public areas that HHPNA has collaborated with the City of Tampa and other organizations to beautify public spaces over many years. Other collaborative projects include Swan Avenue Pond, the Selman Expressway underpasses at Swan Avenue, as well as Morrison Avenue, and of course, Kate Jackson, which all contribute to the goal of creating an urban landscape. DeSoto Avenue is one of very few streets in Hyde Park that enjoys a beautifully landscaped median, which adds to the sense of urban landscaping. While the neighborhood does welcome a change from PD zoning for restaurant use to PD zoning for residential use, the proposed townhomes lack front-facing facades and center on a wide driveway entry lined with visible garage doors. These elements detract from the aesthetics of Burns Park, DeSoto Avenue, and surrounding areas, and undermine the efforts of the neighborhood associations and the City of Tampa to make urban parks a significant contribution to our community, consistent with design guidelines. Therefore, we cannot support this proposal.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is Ron Vila, City of Tampa, Historic Preservation Department. That was Cindy Chimino that just spoke, and Alan Session gave her his minute. Mr. Deacon is going to approach the podium, and he gets 1 additional minute for Lisa. Lisa, can you raise your hand, please? And we have the paperwork. So Mr. Deacon will get 4 minutes.
And I thought Acosta, gave me a minute too, Irene.
Say that again?
Irene gave me a...
I apologize. Irene Acosta gave a minute as well, so Mr. Deacon will have total of 5 minutes.
You mind if I take this off? I mumble otherwise.
That's fine.
My name is George Deacon. I live at 1408 South DeSoto. I'm approximately 125 feet from the project where it faces on DeSoto Avenue. I'll discuss 2 of the elements that you all are considering tonight for design criteria, number 1 and number 10. Number 1 has to do with the scale, height, and width. And again, all these are direct quotes from the guidelines. It says it's not permissible to add a new building to a site which does not maintain or plan with the heights of the buildings on adjacent sites. This is information from the property appraiser site in terms of the number of stories of the buildings on adjacent streets. The orange here is a proposed project. On DeSoto Avenue, you can see most everything is 2 stories. There's a few 1-story. The applicant has said that they'll reduce the height of, well, it's contradictory information he gave, but the last thing he said was they'll reduce the height of the structure, the replacement structure, but it'll still be 3 stories and still will be taller than the adjacent structures on DeSoto Avenue. On Hills Avenue, it's predominantly 2 stories, where the applicant has said on the east end it'll be 3 stories, on the west end of Hills it'll be 4 stories. On Howard Avenue, it's predominantly 1 and 2 stories with 3 stories immediately to the south, and the applicant has said it'll be 4 stories on Howard Avenue. So object or oppose this PD because it does not maintain, nor does it blend with the heights of the buildings on adjacent sites. The next item is roof forms and materials. And this is a quote from the very first sentence in that section, or this is the first sentence. It says, in new construction, it is important to use similar roof and parapet forms drawn from historic structures in the district. This is the nearest multi-story, multi-family historic structures. It's 4 buildings away to the east. It's on Hills Avenue. You can see they're 2 stories, and they've got a little bit of detail, but there's no the upper floor is not, the roof floor is not a living area. It does not have any everyday activity on it. This is what's proposed in the PD. You can see it's 4 stories. The 4th story is called a, quote, roof 4th story. It's predominantly open. There's a little bit of enclosed area, for example, for the stairs and the elevator top, but it's open. We haven't seen any plans for it. We've asked for it. What's going to be up there? We don't know that. We haven't heard from the applicant on it. So what I did is, these are plans for a 4th floor roof, open area. This is on Barcelona. It's outside of the district. It's about a mile west of the historic district, but it shows what can be permitted and can be used, or has been used on the 4th floor, quote, open floor, roof floor. They've got an outdoor kitchen. They've got a roof deck, dining table and chairs. On the adjacent unit, they've got a jacuzzi. They've got a total of 12 lights. So this, and all this happened after the condominium was built. The owner came in afterwards and got it permitted and used it. And many of those items don't even need a permit. So I oppose the roof form. I guess it's not similar to other historic structures, and the potential noise and light can spread out and impact large area because it's on the 4th floor. It's the highest area, highest point in the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, Ron Vila with Historic Preservation. Dennis Van is our next speaker. He received an additional minute to speak this evening from Sandra Lopez. Thank you, Sandra. So he has a total of 4 minutes.
My name is Dennis Van. I reside at 1409 South DeSoto Avenue. I want to speak to the ARC design criteria, item number 1, scale, height, and width. Item number 5, alignment, rhythm, and spacing. Item number 8, facade proportion, window patterns. Looking at his site plan, he's got a 5-foot setback, yet he's got on the 2nd and 3rd level bay windows sticking out 3 feet, which encroaches, means it's 2 feet from the sidewalk. The property south of his proposed property is set, the building is set back to 25 feet. Now, he said he reduced it a foot, so his site plan originally said 45, so it's 44. The building on Howard Avenue, 1508, the 3-story condo, I measured it to be 32 feet to the top of the parapet. His is 44 feet. It's well over 10-foot difference. This has a small parapet, even though it's modern construction, it has a small parapet compared to his parapet that's got to be at least 4 to 4.5 feet, obviously, so someone doesn't fall over the wall. He draws this like it's just this little piece, but it's the whole entire roof deck. I just want to point that out in yellow. I also measured the height of the two properties adjacent to his unit on DeSoto, which his plan said 40 feet. If he reduced it by a foot, then it's 39 foot. But 1405 DeSoto, the gable, the rear gable, is at 24 feet to its peak. And the house next to it, 1407 DeSoto, is 27 feet to the peak of the gable. When you look at his 39 feet, if it's a foot shorter, I mean, that's over 15 feet difference. Once again, this is the house that's facing DeSoto, and I tried to give you the height of the two houses that are right behind it. The one was a 1405 at 24 feet, and the next one is 1407 at 27 feet. And you can see the difference here is going to be based on that 45 or 44 feet, and this one is 39 feet. Once again, here's how big this roof deck is. Goes over the complete structure, He didn't show it here for some reason, I don't know why, but it's there. And the same thing here, he didn't show it, but it's there. He didn't show it here, but it's there. Once again, on Howard, 1508 is at 32 feet compared to his 44 feet, just to give you some perspective of the height and scale and massing of the property associated to the properties right next to it. Once again, I don't see anywhere in the district that they have rooftop decks that people have to deal with noise issues, lighting issues, stringing lights up there. I know that's not in the ARC guidelines, but it's a fact. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Della Costa. I live in Hyde Park. I'm an architectural historian and have lived in Hyde Park for 24 years. I'm also the author of Tampa's Hyde Park. It was published in 2012. And I'm going to go quickly to this because I agree with everything that my commissioner has said. When I was contacted by Arcadia Publishing, I asked them why they contacted me and why Hyde Park. Hyde Park is that there was a demand for Hyde Park because it's a uniqueness, not only in Tampa, but throughout the United States. It's got one of the largest concentration of intact craftsman bungalows still in their original use. And the grid of the Hyde Park was still intact. Also, I want to clarify something. It's been stated a couple of times. The existing PD reads single-family residential for that portion that's on Hills and DeSoto, and the remainder is a restaurant. So the existing PD even recognized that the DeSoto elevation was a PD. There are three things that concern me about this project. The parking on Hills, and that's been resolved to a degree because the pre-parking area has been brought back in part. There is still a 20-foot cut into it. Also, the Hills Avenue elevation, there's been very little discussion on that today. And then the architectural details. As I stated, the Hills Avenue elevation or Hills Avenue Parkway has been preserved, and I appreciate that. When we met with the developer and I had questions about the Hills Avenue elevation, I was sent to look at, this was the recommendation of the developer, to a similar project. It wasn't in the historic district, but the developer suggested I go see it, and this was a project on Mississippi Avenue. And this is essence what the massing of Hills Avenue would look like. This is the module of 22.5 feet by approximately 40 feet. 4 feet in height, 20-foot violation to the grid onto Hills Avenue over here. 2 units. You don't see this anywhere in the historic district. There's no reference. The Secretary of Interior standards, before I go into that, And what concerns me about that is this is a project that was also in the project narrative, and this is what happens when you start creating parking spaces in an area where you have parking. Essentially, with this proposal over here, you would have on Hills Avenue, you have approximately 60 feet on Hills of a total of 170 feet. Is that it?
That's,
Your time is right there.
Oh, where?
See on the red numbers? counted down?
Oh, 25. So anyway, this violates the Secretary of Interior standards for a grid. It states in pertinent part, in an urban district, the alignment and width of roads, the relationships between buildings and yards define historic character. It is not recommended to radically change features in a historic setting, which is important to the district. You need to look at that Hills Avenue elevation. You didn't see it over here today.
thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would like to speak either for or against the project? All right, seeing none, the commissioners can now ask questions to both the applicant and staff. Commissioner Sutton, would you like to begin?
Thank you. I wish to open up with some questions towards staff, please. Just for our mutual clarification before we dive in too terribly deeply with this project and proposal. Before us today is a rezoning request. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And that is for a PD, planned development, which, if I'm not mistaken, in the city of Tampa, is a planning device that casts into stone certain elements of a site plan, building masses, materials, and uses. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, let me answer that.
Well, it's,
It's site plan control, so what you approve today is the footprint, the setbacks, and the massing. The architecture will come back at a later date through the certificate of appropriateness, so the solids and voids and things of that nature are still left out. They gave you some preliminary direction of what it's gonna look like, but they're not held to that standard.
Okay. However, when it does come back to us for certificate of appropriateness as a design element, if you will, we are beholden to the volumes of these buildings that we are presented with today. Correct?
That is Kamaria Pettis-Mackel from the legal department. Yes, you're approving the footprint of the project.
Okay, so I'd like to extend this discussion just one little piece more. If I'm not mistaken, from what I can see here, let me get my notes in line here. This PD also includes, for practical purposes, a contributing structure on the corner of DeSoto and I believe, what is this side street?
Hills.
Hills. Is that correct?
I mentioned through my presentation that it was a period structure. In 1929, it showed up on the Sanborn, but through our current vicinity map, it is non-contributing. That structure could be removed administratively through a request.
Okay, so it is non-contributing.
It is non-contributing.
So for our purposes under this PD, we do not have to look at or could be concerned about revisiting a demolition for a contributing structure. at
That's
this time.
correct.
Thank you very much.
And Commissioner Sutton, just to clarify, not only are you focused today only on, and I clarified as the footprint, but you're talking about the massing and the height, but it'll come back to you for the specific, your normal certificate of appropriateness standards for, the design, what the material will be, et cetera. So
Correct.
we'll see this project again.
But the massing stays the same.
Right.
I do want to just clarify on that. We do have the ability for 5 feet adjustment on that massing though.
Yes.
Is that for this upcoming, I guess, so we would have that ability at the CA portion to adjust?
That's if if this moves forward with a favorable recommendation and that condition is applied as it moves forward to city council and city council adopts that, yes, then you have that 5-foot buffer for modifications to the facade.
Thank you.
Okay. For the moment, I am done with my general questioning right now. I just wanted to clear the decks a little bit on some of the technical issues respecting what we're looking at. My fellow commissioners, have at it.
And this is a recommendation to city council. City council makes the final determination.
Commissioner Myers, would you like to ask any questions?
I have no questions at this time.
Commissioner Taylor?
I have none.
Cubis?
Yes, I have some questions for the agent. If you could tell us again what the height is exactly?
Dylan Alderman. Each of the buildings has a different height, but the highest building is the third one from the south at 44 feet. The two facing Howard, or closest to Howard, are at 43 feet. And the one on the corner, I believe, is 39, like the gentleman said a few moments ago, but I have that written down. 39.
Okay, so there's 4 total buildings?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next question was something that they raised about the mailboxes.
They're going to be located on that drive aisle. They'll be located on the drive aisle behind the buildings.
In the rear?
Yes.
Okay. I guess this is for staff and also for the agent. The minimum dimensions for the apron, what are those minimum dimensions, and then what is your dimension?
The minimum for transportation is 20 feet. I believe the radius, gosh, Jonathan, can you call off the top of your head? Eli, you call him? That's an engineering issue.
Yeah, Jonathan Scott, Planning and Development, Transportation. He's right, it's the 20-foot throat was what we look for, and the apron flares 10 feet. So we looked at this one, we didn't have a problem with it. I think he got it pretty much right how it should be.
Are we at the minimum for this one?
We
that
can
or
be if you want to.
I think
if you want to
it's,
state that, but I believe that was our goal in designing this, that we were aiming for the minimum width. Yes.
I think I think the width of your throat width might be right about 20, right where it should
Yes.
be. Yeah, it might be a little bigger on another one, but it's
Yeah,
hard to.
and I'm guessing we can't have more than a 10-foot radius coming in.
But you want it to kind of line up, so you kind of come in, and the way he's got it's pretty good.
Yeah,
Dylan
so-
does a pretty good job.
Yeah,
He's,
yeah, here, you can.
Speak at a time.
Yes.
Looks, yeah, you want it to kind of line up the way he's got it. It looks good like that. We had found it consistent when we looked at it for the rezoning.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure.
I don't know if we can address this now or if it's for the CA, but the garage doors and just where they're facing, are you able to show us what the proposal is?
Yes, I can. Well, that was part of what drove this drive aisle. We didn't want any garage doors facing any of the right-of-ways, so this building was originally oriented towards DeSoto, so we have the garage doors at the back, and the Sanborn map shows a detached building, which is most likely a garage with that structure at some time. These facing South Howard and West Hills have their garage doors on the drive aisle. The 3 units coming from the south each open to the back, and then these 2 units facing Hills empty out onto the drive aisle at the rear.
Okay, the first one that you mentioned, could you go through that again? I think
This building?
Yes.
Yes. This was the structure, the structure that's there was the one shown on the Sanborn map, and it's oriented the front towards South DeSoto.
Okay.
So we've maintained that orientation with the front porch on it to be consistent with that block face, and the garage doors open up onto the drive aisle for those 2 units.
Okay, so the structure that was originally there was facing DeSoto with the side yard facing Hills?
Correct.
Like you have?
Yes, yes, and I had a photograph I showed you, the proximity. It's only 7 feet off of the right-of-way on the side.
Okay, thank you. Exactly how many stories? I mean, you gave me the height, but how many stories are we talking about?
Yeah, the 3 buildings facing Hills and Howard are 4, and the ones facing DeSoto Avenue are 3.
The fourth floor being the roof deck?
The roof deck is over the third floor and accessed, laterally from the fourth floor living space.
Okay.
There's no decks on the fourth floor roof.
Okay. And the bay windows, I know you mentioned that you changed it from a diagonal type design to a rectangular type design.
Yes.
How far do those stick out?
My recollection is I designed those at to 20 inches, but I believe we requested a 3-foot allowance for the bay windows on the PD plan. If we need to put a roof over that, and it will be covered with that encroachment.
Okay. I think that's all I have right now. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Boyd?
Do you have any reference in the residential historic district for this, the roof level living spaces?
Not that I'm aware of. Corbett?
Cami Corbett again for the record. There are upstairs outdoor use areas. For example, on Rome Avenue, next to Kate Jackson Park, there are two-story townhomes, and they have screened-in porches over the back of the garages, and they look directly back across the alley into single-family homes. So these are designed in a much more sensitive way to the neighborhood. So that's just one example off the top of my head. You also have balconies throughout the Hyde Park Historic District that are approved in a number of areas. You have the Valencia on Rome that has roof deck openings on that. I think on the 6th floor, as high as the 6th floor, they have open roof deck living spaces. So they do exist within the district.
Thank you. Can you confirm the height of the adjacent Howard Avenue existing structures?
Adjacent. I presume you're referring to this structure to the south. Is that correct?
Sure.
I cannot, but I can see that it's 3 stories, and there's like maintenance penthouses on those structures. I don't know if the gentleman was measuring to the parapet height or to that structure above. My intent in my design was to make that 4th level look like penthouse structures to the maximum extent, just for historic continuity, but also it's providing the function that we intended to provide access to those rooftop decks.
There's no, could you pull up your site plan, please?
Yes. This is not the detailed site plan, but is this sufficient?
Yes.
Okay.
For the drive aisle for your South Howard units, there's no alley or street behind, is that correct? They abut other residents?
Yes, I presume, well, I don't know. There's green space against all of these. These are the garage doors, and the drive aisle come up, and that's where we proposed the fence. Then we're going to fence this as well. We've provided a good buffer between the buildings and our rear property lines to the best of our ability of bringing these forward. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
I don't have any additional questions at this time.
I'd like to ask an additional question.
Go ahead.
How is the additional land associated with the project conveyed? You have 9 units. Some of the units are immediately adjacent to open space. Will those open spaces be conveyed along with the unit, or are they?
Oh, well, For single-family attached, there's a green space requirement we'll have to meet. And I can already tell you we exceeded by quite a bit. It doesn't say how we have to allocate that green space per unit. So, yeah, I do imagine the courtyard's going to be common space, and pretty much for these units, the area outside of their building footprint will be common, but we may grant these as yards around the building on DeSoto as their private lot. These are fee simple properties, so these will be conveyed with the land that they sit on. They will be residential lots.
Okay, and so like the garden courtyard, it belongs to either everyone or no one, right?
It'll be owned by the association. So will the drive aisles, and they'll be required to maintain them as part of the association documentation.
Okay, and my next question is, how much covered livable space is there on the 4th floor?
It varies. This is a good diagram. This gray hatched area on each of these is showing the enclosed space on each of those top floors.
And can you tell me what that space is utilized for?
It's primarily the stairwell and a large room. It's not bedrooms, it's just like a television room or, flex space.
Okay. And there's no bathroom up there?
Not on that level.
Okay.
We haven't designed one in.
And can you also tell me the height of the parapet?
I believe, well, the roof is actually going to have a slope to it for drainage, so it's going to vary somewhat, but.
No, but the parapet doesn't have a slope. I'm just talking about that.
No. For safety, I've designed it, or what you've seen in the renderings and the drawings reflects a minimum of 40 inches. So as the roof slopes away, it will increase at those points.
So the height that you've quoted us is 44 feet or 43 feet. It depends on the building. But the parapet above the 3rd floor is, what is that total height?
That's what I see what you're asking. If you can bear with me, I have the diagram that shows those various heights. Let me take a moment. There are 2 heights because, here we go. Very good. All right. For an example, this is the building furthest south. We're calling it 43 feet to the top of the roof, but it's 42 and change. To the floor surface, at the high point is the 33.8, and then there's another 40 inches above that.
So 43.8, wait, 33.8?
33.8 and change, plus 40 inches. So it's going to be, that's 36, 30, that's 37, is that correct?
That's what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So if we could we look at the site plan that you just had up?
Yes, sir.
Did you look at a configuration or a layout on the site that focused the access to the garages on the back side or the rear of, if we're looking at the plan here, you have South Howard on the bottom of the page. All the access points to those garages would be on the north side or the top of the page. And then the same for the hills, so that way you always accessed your garage, so where it was hidden.
Well, as a practical design matter, there's minimum distances and backup, and that goes into design and orienting the buildings. It became very difficult to get the 5 units and wind a drive aisle around the building and get the minimum distance setback from the corner of the property. There's a minimum distance from an intersection before you can have a drive aisle. So it didn't really work well from either end for this group of buildings. And through the exercises of placing the buildings on this site, this park has a diagonal entry from the intersection, and we're trying to take that cue for the entry into this project by kind of replicating the columns on a diagonal sidewalk leading into an open courtyard, so you kind of get some balance at the intersection. And it seemed to just complement what was being forced by design standards to fit with the layout of the buildings.
So was there a plan or a strategy that did allow you to have those parking spots or accessed from the rear? Maybe it meant reduction of footprint of the units or reduction of units, but was there an ability to do that?
To answer your question, my recollection was it became a pinch point at each. This is such an odd-shaped lot. If you can imagine, a cubicle. I mean, to answer your question, I mean, frankly, you could delete units so you had none and had them all facing one way. But we tried to find a nice balance with how much coverage of the property with the number of units that we have and get the circulation needed. But as you can see, this is a tight spot to come into, and this pinch point right here makes it difficult to get the maneuvering to work practically. This is almost dictated by the orientation of this building to make that work, because this peninsula of our property is narrow.
Was there any consideration given to looking at reducing the overall footprint of the garage, instead of a 2-car garage, having a parking spot that is pulled away from the building, similar to what you've done on those 3 spots, to where your footprints of your structure could become reduced, allowing you to pull that closer and having more space along the backside for driving?
If the garage takes up a good bit of the footprint of the ground floor. So what we have on the ground floor is basically stairs and a spare room with a bath. The main living level is on the 2nd floor. So reducing this doesn't help in that, as a practical standpoint, for having living space, a kitchen, dining, and living in a practical configuration, we need a certain footprint. It complements the garage. If we'd gone to a single car garage, I don't know that it would facilitate the design above it.
Okay.
Because frankly, we have to make use of that remainder on the ground floor, because it's not big enough for a living room or a regular public living space. So it goes up.
Okay. Can we look at the structure that's facing the DeSoto Avenue property?
Yes.
And I'm going to kind of explain a concern I have, and let's see maybe how you can answer it. Overall, the massing of that, it's trying to replicate a craftsman style house that is typically a 2-story structure at most.
Right.
And typically that 2nd story would get pulled back historically, and it would be smaller than the footprint on the 1st floor. Now, obviously, on new construction, that's not always the case. But even then, the structure just seems to almost be, you took a craftsman style house that should really be a 2-story structure and kind of just pulled it vertically in order to get your 3rd floor. And
Yes.
proportionally and mass-wise, it does not seem to align with or match anything else that's in the district, let alone what's along that street or the surrounding streets. Was there a strategy, or did you look at anything to achieve that mass,
Yeah.
either
well,
smaller, or did you look at something that would maybe be a different style?
I think the style complements what we were trying to do. We do have a 3-story building here, and we're trying to disguise that in the roof structure. So just pulling the shed dormer in from the outside walls was to create the illusion of a shed dormer. The main body of the 3rd floor is at the center underneath the ridge line of the main roof.
So do you have, or can you find, or have you found an example of a 3-story craftsman style house in the district?
I can go looking for one. I can say, I'm a resident of Lexington, Virginia. I see structures similar to that in my neighborhood. It's a very, very historic neighborhood. I know the vernacular there is different than Hyde Park. Since you're asking, I can go searching for something similar, and maybe if there's something similar, bend this, facade to replicate that to some extent. But this is the first go at it. We were here for a massing exercise and building placement, and I'm also trying to complement what was a single-family house on the corner, and now is a duplex.
Okay. So I think one thing that you've done really nicely, and I want to commend you on this, is obviously the park, sort of that main courtyard area. It does take that down to a very human scale. So the idea that, as you're coming along the street, you do give it that scale of a pedestrian can kind of understand. However, the farther you get away from that corner, I feel you might lose that. So when you get to the end, or what was the south side of South Howard, you essentially have a 4-story building where everywhere else that you have that rooftop kind of structure, the actual massing that's solid gets pulled back away from the edge. Whereas if you're looking at the elevation there, it's actually right up along Howard.
Right.
And for me, the massing on that end just makes it larger than if you had done something similar to the other 3 buildings, where that gets at least set back in a way to where, we're looking at elevations as if they're front on. However, you're talking about someone that is, 20, 30 feet away from the building looking up at an angle. A lot of these you're not going to see. However, that one all the way on the right on this page, you're going to see that as a 4-story, very flat vertical building. For me, the massing on that it's missed its mark.
I have the side elevation if you'd like to see it, but there we go. This is the side you're referring to. Yep. And the reason for that is we have the staircase at the front, because this unit's turned sideways to get the maneuverability and for the drive aisle.
One of the other questions that I have is, knowing that there's a 5-foot kind of allowable space for this to be adjusted, how would that drastically change the design and massing of the building if later on in the CA portion that gets looked at from a architectural stand?
I don't know, that's an unknown. However, whatever your concerns are, like you're raising regarding that end unit, that was how it is designed. Now, it doesn't mean that it has to be designed that way going forward. I mean, all of these have gone through iterations, somewhat getting feedback from the public and our initial submittal, to the ARC. And the responses we got back from staff, we've been responsive at each step. So, knowing the concern, we can be responsive to it, but I can't speak to a theoretical.
Okay. Are there any additional questions for either applicant or staff?
I just have one more question. I just want to ask kind of the same question, but in a different way, for the orientation of the 2 inside buildings?
Yes.
Just have you considered putting the front of the building either facing South Howard or facing Hills?
The question is which is the front, because we've put a nice facade, I believe, on both sides of those. The entry to this unit on Hills is off of Hills. This one's from the courtyard.
Okay.
This entry is from the courtyard, and the entry to this unit is along South Howard. So
okay.
Right here, this is the entry to that unit.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
And then, can we see that? Oh, I gotta move it up. So there was a lot of question about what the West Hills street scene looks like. Well, this side is the intersection. This is the facade profile up to DeSoto, right there, so with the drive aisle in between the two buildings.
Okay, thank you.
And, oh. No,
You can go
I was
ahead.
gonna say, well, there's a transition. If you look at South Howard, as buildings get close to that corner, there's some really multi-story buildings, and they have a totally different language than the single-family residents around them. We're kind of on that transition. We're trying to replicate a single-family house on the corner on the residential street, but then take it to a different language along South Howard, which I think is consistent with that street facade.
What are the square footages of the units?
Oh, that's a good question. We're like 20. Yeah, that's what I recall. Yeah,
Can you please put that on the record, because he's.
No, I'm going to, yes. I think the range, there's a range, each unit's different. So it's basically like 26 to 2,800 square feet of living space.
So it's safe to say the building with 2 units is roughly 6,000 square feet of footprint?
Floor area, living area.
Right.
Something like that, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Any additional questions for either the staff or the applicant? Okay. At this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for a rebuttal.
Cami Corbett again for the record. I did want to point out again the future land use categories for these properties. There was some discussion during public comment about single family and preserving the single family nature of the historic district. We have 3 land use categories. One is CMU 35, the other is R35, and the other is R10. All of those are multifamily districts, and so it's not that we're doing something that's inconsistent with the future land use, or that in the historic district there only can be single family homes. And I did want to just make that point, and I'd like to ask Mr. Alderman to go through one last time for all of you each of the clean elevations, so you have a good picture of the elevations that we're asking you to approve and the ones that staff has found consistent with the historic district. So if you could, please.
Yeah, well, where did I set that? Okay, here we go. Real quick, this is the building on the south end of the property facing Howard. This is the back with the garages of that building. This is the next building north. It's facing Howard, and then this is the front, or this side profile of that same building. That building facing the residents adjacent to us, and then the drive aisle. Then this is the one on Hills. So this is the facade towards the courtyard. This side here is what faces Burns Park. That's the facade on the drive aisle, and this is the facade facing the resident adjacent to us. And then on, we got Luna Park. That was the original name of the street, but this is DeSoto. So this is the front facade, and then the facade on Hills, drive aisle, and then facing our resident to the south.
Thank you. All right. At this point, we will close the public hearing, and the commissioners can now discuss the case. Would a commissioner like to begin? Commissioner Boyd?
I think my probably 2 items of note are the height and the use of the rooftop as living space, and the facade on Howard. I do appreciate the orientation of the site plan, and appreciating Burns Park across of Hills Avenue, sort of mirroring it with the small courtyard in between the two center structures. As we heard in public comment, I think the two main concerns were the height and the rooftop use. And I don't think I have any additional notes.
I think the massing as well, just
Yeah,
big
and coming
blocks.
and taking a 5-foot setback and decreasing it for the modified bay windows, I think is a concern and something that we'll probably address again at the certificate of appropriateness.
Yeah, there's no dimension to the building at all.
Mhm.
Just a,
And same for the structure on DeSoto.
I understand the difficulties of approaching a redevelopment of a very irregular site. And I also agree that this particular site, besides that alone being irregular and difficult to deal with, is a transitional sort of a site. It's right there at that apex when Howard makes that turn into the more higher density that you see along the Bay Shore, but it's fronting everything else around it in a very small scale. And I think that's what I find kind of jarring here. I have a number of problems with the inconsistency of this proposal with some of the elements that we have within our historic district. Now, I understand one thing is you're building greater density. That's the modern world. But I still find this a little bit over the top in terms of its density and its massing. In part of this, I understand how the stylization that we see right now as being the grand Georgian urban home sort of a situation, but we don't see any of the differentiation of the individual units. And that increases the masses of this. The other part of the individual units is that we're dealing with a context where, with the exception of the older school apartment buildings, but even they conform to the idea of you're getting your access to your building from its front that fronts its street. And we don't have that here. Or at least it's not immediately apparent. All we see are these 4-story blocks, 3 stories if you want to call it that, but it's out of place. There's something lost here in the transition. It's functioning more as a wall than a transition between the lower scale of Upper Howard and the environs of Hyde Park and the southern portion, which is much larger in scale. There's a transition that I find missing here that tells me that maybe, in spite of the design work that we've seen here so far, that this really isn't, prime time. We're looking at, 9 units, full-fledged homes in their own right, 2,600 square feet. This is not an apartment building. This is not a smaller scale condo building. These are big units, to which I would like to respond to some of the comments that Mr. Greco had made. I'm not terribly convinced that the pair of units fronting DeSoto are really up to snuff in terms of the design element of what it's claiming to be and what we're actually seeing. Never mind the scale of the adjacent buildings on DeSoto. I'm having a hard time looking at how the proposed development is actually consistent to the patterns that we see traditionally, regardless of scale, in Hyde Park.
What I'm seeing is sort of a decision that has been made to make all of these units the same size. And certainly the units on DeSoto seem to call out for units of a different size that would allow the massing of the building to be more consistent with the other homes along the street. I also concur with the chair's statement about the four-story portion of, I think it's building number 1 on the south side, that the four-story portion being at the street line, I think is probably inappropriate for this edge of the district. Ron, can you bring up the building adjacent to the south? I think it's 508 South Howard. So that grouping of townhomes is not in the district, is that?
This is the vicinity map for Hyde Park's Historic District. The blue is the national district. The red indicates the local district. So the structures to the south are within the local district of Hyde Park. They're non-contributing structures. So you have one that was fairly new construction. I've been with the city probably 19 years, and that precedes me. And then the one that is on the corner of Bayshore and Howard is the Royale. And somebody showed a beautiful picture of the building when it was in the early 20s, but it has been altered and has lost its status. So both of the buildings to the south are non-contributing.
Okay, thanks.
Any additional items?
I would just say I agree with all of my fellow commissioners in the sense of the massing. I think there's probably some other options here to maybe achieve what they're trying to achieve, but in keeping with what's surrounding the particular property here in front of us. I just feel like with the height, which is why I asked the question of the square footages, along with the actual footprint of the buildings, as you're walking down the sidewalk, we're just going to feel much larger than anything else around it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think there's an understanding of what the applicant is trying to achieve. So I think if you look at the buildings to the south, there is that 3-story, you could say 4-story condo building. However, the reason it doesn't sometimes always feel as big as it is there's a larger setback for that property than what this site is proposing. So even though it is bigger, it's farther back. You have the landscape buffer, and you kind of lose some of that massing as you go through. Whereas this one, it's pulled, it is 5 feet off kind of the sidewalk, but it's get pulled up right next to the road, in which case you're really starting to just make that mass read even larger than it really is. So I think the setback or the overall massing could be adjusted to where you start to lose some of that mass overall and it just appears smaller. I'd also personally look at the property that's on DeSoto. I feel that it is just proportionally does not fit. If you look at the existing house that's there now, the scale of that, the height of it, proportions, massing, it just reads far better with what's there than what's being proposed, and especially with the style that's being proposed. That large of a craftsman style house, I would be surprised if you could find that in the district somewhere. Overall, I think your siting and having that courtyard and having some of those units open up into that courtyard, although they don't face the street per code kind of, definition, I think that's a very well-defined and well-detailed condition, because it does kind of extend that Burns Park all the way in. So for that doesn't bother me as much. I think just overall the massing and the scale of these buildings just don't seem to fit this site and what's surrounding it. Any other items from a fellow commissioner, or would a commissioner like to make a motion or a recommendation for this one? And just know that if you do, just make sure it's very clear. And unfortunately, right now, the public portion.
She's going to, the agent's going to ask a request.
Okay.
Yes, sorry, Cammie Corbett for the record. Yes, we think we might be able to address some of your concerns if we had a continuance rather than having going forward. We really appreciate the comments that we had, and we have been trying to be responsive to, we thought we were being responsive to the concerns that were raised at the neighborhood meeting, but we still clearly hadn't quite gotten there. Now that we have your feedback, I think we'd like the benefit of a continuance to see if we can work on some of these items.
And then if staff could just inform the agent when it's
October 4th, 2021 at 6 p.m. is our next public hearing that's available.
Yes, so I'd make that request till October 4th.
Okay. Would a commissioner like to make a motion?
I move to grant a continuance in case ARC 21-279/REZ 21-48 for the property located at 1502 South Howard Avenue for the October 4th, 2021 public hearing at 6 p.m.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you. Could we actually have a 5-minute recess, and then can I talk to you? 21308. One of the individuals that will be presenting tonight for the owner and agent is one of my next door neighbors. So just wanted to.
But, Mr. Chair, can you just state on the record whether or not you have any, are you aware of the project associated with ARC 21308?
So I was not aware of the project. I have no financial or legal connections to it, and the individual and I have not talked about it prior to this.
And you can set aside your relationship with being neighbors aside, or can you set that relationship aside and be fair and impartial?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So moving to the last case this evening, which is ARC 21-308. This is for the address of 907 South Dakota Avenue. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District. The primary structure dates back to 1920. The accessory structure associated with this parcel is also listed on our vicinity map as contributing. The zoning classification is RS60. There's two requests this evening for certificate of appropriateness. The first one is demolition of a contributing structure, which I advise the agent to come forward. He's going to do a complete presentation. Then you could open that up for questions, public comment, see where that goes. If the demolition is approved, then we could go into the certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a two-story accessory structure of approximately 900 square foot that meets the zoning classification for RS60 with some site improvements. Moving to the photo presentation. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District, as I stated. It is mid-block on Dakota. It's 907. To the north, you have Morrison. To the west, you have Rome. To the south, below, you have Watrous Avenue. There is an alley that runs north-south behind the property. The vicinity map is kind of centrally located. As a reference point, you have Hyde Park Village, just to the north of the subject site. This is the front elevation of the primary structure. If we do get into the certificate of appropriateness, look at the windows and the casings. This high-end craftsman style home has a very detailed casement windows that flank the majority of the structure. This is looking at the front elevation and the north elevation. You see how those windows continue around. The size of the windows kind of changed, but the head heights are maintained. On the first level, has generous overhangs with your outriggers, and your barge rafter is some dimension there as well. This is looking down the vehicular access towards the one-story accessory structure. This is looking at the south elevation. This is wrapping around to obviously the non-vehicular side. You see some of the gable vents that are incorporated into the structure. The Structure does have lap siding, which is a traditional wood with corner boards. So looking at the rear elevation, how the continuation of those casement windows are prevalent. Just looking at another shot of the rear elevation and just a portion of the north and the rear. Focusing on the accessory structure, it's a one-story accessory structure that has some challenges that the agent will go through. This is just looking at the interior portion, has no fenestration. Off the primary elevation, the drive aisle, it has the double doors. Just looking from a distance, you see in the background an abutting accessory structure. This is the rear facing the alley, very nondescript. And just the condition of the alley, looking in both directions. That concludes the photo presentation. The agent was assisted in going through the presentation consistent with chapter 27-116A, F 1 through 3. They're going to start with the burden of proof, go into additional criteria for a possible relocation of the accessory structure, and then focusing on the economic hardship for the conclusion. At this time, Mr. Garrett Gilkey will address the board.
Garrett Gilkey, agent. Good evening. Tonight we're going to just briefly go through the application standards for the demolition of the articulated structure. Before we start, I do think that there is a value of presentation in the ambiguous nature, I think, of the classification on this being a contributing structure. From March 1921, we have a visual representation of the accessory structure here in the back. And from the photos I'm going to show you and from what we see here from May 2021, we see a gable end on the front elevation of that structure. Looking at the Sanborn map, we do see an articulation of a structure more relative to the size from the 1920s, unlike what we have there currently. So one of the largest arguments we have tonight is the issues related to the integrity of the structure. And so we are going to bring Frank DeJose up here shortly to discuss the structural engineer's report and further substantiate some of our claim. As you can see through some of these pictures, we have a pretty substantial lean in the south elevation of the structure. As you can see, we have some separation between the butt joints of the doors. Pretty common observations of repair needed for the consistent structure in Hyde Park. One of the things to notice here that I do think further substantiates some discussion as it relates to whether or not this actually is a contributing structure is you'll notice we have about 4-inch profile here with a beveled edge of lap siding, which is not consistent with the 7-inch lap siding that we have on the primary structure of the home. We also have corner boards that are more relative to more traditional and probably later applications of construction, so I'll show you those here shortly. On the front elevation, we have no shear strength, no sheathing on the structure, so we have a pretty substantial lean to the structure, which requires not only a substantial amount of structural repair, but further observations as to what the conditions really are for the structure. Here, again, is going to be further substantiated by Frank's report, just showing you some deviations, some issues in the integrity of the structure. Here we have an articulation. Really just of a lack of foundation for the structure. The original plan is to put a second story. The original plan is to have a 2-story accessory structure, which per zoning were afforded in Hyde Park. in order to do that, we obviously need to ensure that the foundation is designed to accommodate and carry the loads of a second-story structure. So in just initial discussion, this point's relative to the financial feasibility of the project. We really don't have a foundation. So what it looks like was we had just a slab poured, about anywhere between a 2-inch to a 4-inch slab poured for the structure. You also see here, here's some evidence of non-period specific or contributing material type as you look at a 1x material dimensioned lumber here for the trim boards. We do see shadowing on the trim boards, so we do believe that there was a period specific and historic nature of application to this. However, dimensionally, we are not consistent with what we have in the house. Not uncommon, but pretty substantial wood rot in the rafters, inconsistency with the spacing on 2x4s, which again Frank will articulate and discuss here shortly. Couple observations that we have as it relates to whether or not we can move the structure on site. We have a pretty good sized structure that currently, again, this is not relative or in line with what we see in the Sanborn map. An option is to move the structure on site. If we do that, we're presented with two potential issues. The first issue is we walk out of the consistency of the site plan configuration for Historic Hyde Park in that the access to the accessory structure often is in line with the driveway access of the original of the structure. If we were to move the structure or move the structure over to the adjacent side of the property, not only would we be taking ourselves out of a historic representation of site plan configurations in Hyde Park, but we also would be impeding in a pretty substantial oak tree radius that we have on that side of the property. Another challenge is while the 5-foot eave-to-eave code separation for site-specific structures is paramount for design purposes, not relative to adjacent structures. We do have a pretty substantial issue here in this pretty large overhang and non-conforming nature of structure location relative to setback. So we have about a 1 foot 1 inch separation between these two structures. Why do I say that? Because in the event that we want to do a second story, on top of that, we have some fire protection related issues that we'd be dealing with. On top of right here, which you'll see in some other photos, is a transformer pole. And so there are some complications with just the location of that and additional costs to be incurred and or expensed because of its relative location. 721 South Boulevard was a project that our firm HGC Design Build built about 1.5 years ago. It was not afforded a approval for demolition, and so what we had to do was suspend the entire structure while we put a new cast-in-place bell foundation underneath the accessory structure. That was a $50,000 expense, which was about 3 times as much as what it should have been from a new construction application. I share that because as we're talking about the cost analysis relative to this project on keeping the structure on site, rehabilitating the structure, we're looking at pretty substantial financial risks. And so right now, from an estimation standpoint, knowing that we'd be walking into a non-conformity issue from a site plan configuration, we're looking at nearly $70,000 just to relocate the structure on site. We have no shear strength, we have no rigid board, we have no exterior sheathing on the structure, so the process to remediate this is effectively a new construction process. So basically what we're proposing is a surgical demo and pelletization of the materials, which again we do not believe are contributing. And so if we were to palletize and surgically remove those materials, we have the opportunity to walk out the observations of preservation from a more intentional, I think, approach. That gives us an opportunity to palletize and identify I think opportunities from like Schiller's or other repurposed and salvage yards to use the material that we're taking down. So if we were to remediate, if we were to relocate the structure on site, again, the process would be for us to effectively, number one, strap the entire structure. And when in doing that, we would then be lifting the structure and moving it over, still putting a new monolithic slab underneath it. We would still be having to remove all of the siding and resheet the entire structure, as we have pretty substantial deviations and movement already taking place. The moment we move any of the structure back into alignment would automatically assume buckling for the rest of the siding on the structure. So the processes, again, for relocation would essentially be the same as complete demo. So relative speaking here, structure relocation to a planned development area. I don't have visuals of these observations, but with the dimensions of the alleyways and the side of the structure, the side of the home to the neighbor's adjacent yard, there's no logistical opportunity for us to move that structure. In the event that we were to split the structure, or which really is the only option, we're really looking at about a cost of $120,000 to do that. We'd be splitting the structure, we'd be redoing the landscape, we'd still be walking out the same processes of strapping what's really left of this shed. Most of the siding would most likely buckle and fall off in transportation, and then we would effectively be doing the same thing regardless of where it is moved to. So as we then interpret overall just cost of relocation relative to cost of new, structure relocation relative to cost of new, surgical demo relative to cost of new, we have a pretty substantial economic hardship that I think justifies and warrants the discussion here. So backing up, just to furthermore talk about a few more topics here. So we do believe that, again, the cost of remediation here is just not feasible. There's a eave-to-eave separation fire code issue with it, which I think is a justifiable concern, and even in the event that we want to put a sandwich two-story structure on top of what's existing. We do have a relative visual representation of what a potential cupcaked opportunity would look like here. What that does is it again, relative to the site-specific conditions, it does give us a 5-foot eave-to-eave separation that is accommodating. However, the functionality of this space is just not efficient. On top of that, this also assumes a greater price point on a cost analysis, as the condition of the structure still has to be completely remediated in its current form, which assumes all new construction processes. And so not only is this not relative to a design style that we would see in Hyde Park, it's financially pretty exorbitant. I'm going to let Frank come up and share his structural report.
Hello everyone, Frank DeJost, structural engineer. I'm going to basically go through our findings and observations of the rear garage structure. I'll set these photos up here for your use. Bear with me one moment. Basically the front elevation here, as Garrett depicted, it has these multi-panel garage doors that are on a rail system. If you're looking at the front elevation here, you can see the lack of sheathing, and as we'll look into the photos, there's no jack king studs or lateral supports that can stiffen this structure in the event, which is why we have the shift 3 inches to the north on the right elevation. Overall, in our front elevation, we found the garage doors were shifted. These were non-rated, non-hurricane assemblies. The overhangs on the front elevation about 24 inches. And they encroach on the neighbor's stairs as well. On the right elevation, we did have a 4-foot water level, as you'll see, where we had the misalignment of about 3 inches. We also found some long-term deteriorated wood siding, just deferred maintenance and ongoing issues. The rear structure elevation also had a similar application, and the left elevation had the worst deterioration at the base. We also noted some sagged in the roofing structure at the midpoint of the field, where you can see depressions in the shingles. And we also found that the interior of the structure lacked proper hurricane straps, tie downs, rafter ridge beams, and diagonal braces connections that you'd expect to see in a gable constructed roof. Also, during our review, we found that the rear left corner of the structure, a hand auger was developed, and we found that the structure was a 4-inch thick, non-thickened footing, and we saw coarse and fine aggregates were able to be loosened with the hand. We found no reinforcement, no wire, no fiber mesh, nothing along those lines that would be required for temperature and shrinkage, as long as resolutions of load path down to the soils. Go through here, kind of go through our photos here. Here's our front elevation. As we see, the door shifted and is shifted to the north, which is to the right. Here's an overview of the right elevation, looking back from the alley. Here's our rear elevation. As you can see, some top deterioration of the siding with a gable vent at the top. And here is our left elevation with the base siding coming free. Just a closer view of the front elevation doors separated and misaligned. Photo 6 showing our overhang encroachment on the neighboring property. Photo 7 is a little tricky, but is looking up. Actually, the foreground is our overhang, and the back and the top here is the neighbor's. Closer view of some deterioration on the right elevation siding. Here's our 3-inch shift with the water level. Closer view of deteriorated siding. As you can see, this was able to be loosened with the hands on the left elevation at the base. Photo 14 showing interior framing. We do have gable ends. We do have double 2x top plates sitting on wood studs. They're at 26 inches on center. Typically, you see 16 to 24 in common construction. Just some more alternate views. You can see some staining here, and these are 1x slats on the roof rafters that also follow suit on the spacing for the roofing supports. Once again, just more photos. Photos 18, you can actually see that long-term deterioration, deferred maintenance on the underside. This is the substrate. Above this is the shingle, so we do not have proper sheathing. We have no graded materials. We have no diaphragm supporting to stop any of this lateral movement, which is why we see the 3-inch shift on the north elevation, i.e. the right side. Here's just some more photos here. Photo 19, this is the front end gable. Below is your garage door. You'd expect to see kicker braces, normally about 4 bays back to resolve any wind pressure into the structure, which we do not have. Photo 21 is showing our frame opening, our portal opening here with no king or jack studs, no supports, no headers going across. All elements that will help stiffen and limit the amount of movement or deflection or drift that you would see in this structure. Once again, that's why we have the 3-inch shift towards the north. Photo 22 is showing the hand augers. It is showing basically the footing and lack thereof for proper resolution down to our soils. I can just go briefly over our summaries of each location. As I said, the existing foundation was only 4 inches thick. We did not find vapor barriers. We cannot confirm the minimum strength, which Florida Building Code requires 2,500 PSI, which cannot be confirmed. And the fact that the aggregates were movable with a hand is also something that would not allow us to utilize the existing structure in its current condition. The wall construction and the roof construction both lacked sheathing, both lacked proper transfer for our lateral forces, as well as hurricane straps and ties. And like I said, there were depressions in the roof where you could see visually that there were slopes and it was not properly constructed to accept the loads. That's all I have for now.
Garrett Gilkey for the record. That completes the narrative for demo.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioner Ron Vita, staff with Historic Preservation. Staff's been on site twice to assist the applicant coming forward with a complete presentation. In your staff report is a comprehensive plan of what they just addressed if you wanted to look at any additional sections. Staff requests that they bring additional photo documentation to the public hearing, which they presented tonight, and that they have all professionals here to answer any questions. So this is a complete presentation. that they have addressing Chapter 27, 116F, 1 through 3. I'm here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, we'll open the hearing to any public comment, if anyone would like to speak for or against. Okay, seeing none, the commissioners can now ask questions for the demo portion of the project only. Anyone like to begin?
I would like to begin with one simple question. This is just an observation that I've seen in other locations, usually more hospitable than Tampa, Florida, that owing to what you have all discovered with respect to this structure's slab, on grade if you want to call it that, its foundation, could it possibly be that this original structure was literally built on the ground?
It's a great question. We've seen that in a lot of different occasions, I think, with structures in Hyde Park. When you see that, often you'll see actually the slab poured around the verticals of those studs, which often don't have bottom plates. And so in the case here, that's not what you see. So you do see, I believe we have a bottom plate.
At least a bottom plate?
Yeah, we have a bottom plate.
I was wondering
so
about
that would usually
that.
be indicative.
Because I've seen more than enough that built on the ground, almost like a pole style, for all practical purposes, a wood floor on sleepers on the ground. With respect to your original comment about finding elements that don't really match the house, I don't find that particularly disconcerting in this particular time frame for accessory structure. At this time, they were very utilitarian in that mindset, goes forward. There is some craft involved with it, but in many respects it's a mini version of the original house. It's also many times a forgotten part of the whole dwelling situation on the site. More time and money is put into the house than into the accessory structures. And that's what I'm beginning to see here to a certain degree is a death by neglect. Outside of what you've presented directly to us today, do you have any other further evidence of an owner's or a prior owner's extensive rehabilitation of this structure? Or are we looking at something that has been substantially intact from its original date and left as is?
Yeah, so two observations. One, you do see different materials often in the eaves and overhangs. You'll see one bi's used as opposed to beadboard. You'll see different size lat material. It's very uncommon to see different dimension cornerboard, and that's an indicator that we do have here that this is not a contributing structure, that there is not a continuity in cornerboard dimensions. And so often in period specific. Now this does show us and present to us a shadowing relationship between the lap siding and the cornerboards, which is of value. But I think the further evidence here, this shows a substantially different articulation and dimension of structure. And so we have a shed roof here, which could be consistent because the south property does have a corrugated metal shed. And so this could have been the original structure here was most likely a flat roof or a pitch roof, a shed roof. And your follow-up questions were relative to the potential of this just being neglected, you're saying? That is a fair observation, and I do think it's a fair question. One thing to note that I think is pretty observational from this elevation is that there's clearly no shear strength on this elevation, and the question is why? Well, we have, obviously, Frank had communicated the lack of bracing, gable bracing and so forth, but you also notice that there's about 1.5 feet here, we have 0 dimension here. And so the door is on a rail system, so that does make sense. That was very common in that period specific nature of sliding rail systems for garage doors. However, what you notice here is that this gapping here is indicative of this door system actually being what has held this up. So I think that the observations here were more relative to a design flaw than the very common issues that all of these homes in Hyde Park have, which is just that they're wood in Florida, you know, and they need maintenance. So I would not say that the characteristics of this application is relative to a negligence in home maintenance, which again is common, especially with accessory structures.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Myers?
I have no questions.
I've got a few. You mentioned the corner board dimensions are different on this structure versus the house. Could you clarify, are you meaning width, thickness?
Depth.
Okay, so what is on the accessory structure and what is on the home?
So I believe we have a true 1.5 inches, and I don't have those measurements on me. You can see them in some of the representations of the, siding here. It's a little bit hard to tell, but you can see a much thicker and more proud relationship of the casing on the windows. You also see a greater proud relationship here. And so what you will not notice is that proud of a relationship on the side, or on the corner boards here in question. So you can see an articulated 1 by dimension there. So this is more.
So is it a full 1 inch, or is it 3/4?
That was just 3/4, which also is not a nominal understanding profile relationship. So period specific, it's not a nominal number that we would have seen in a period specific nature.
Also, there was a mention of the concrete strength. Has there been any testing done on that as far as trying to get that strength?
As an engineer myself, there was no reason to, because it falls apart in your hand. And so to further test what is observable with the eye would have just been a waste of time.
Okay. There was a mention of no roof sheathing. Could you clarify that? I know it's not typical plywood sheathing that we'd see in new construction today, but I believe I did see 1 by solid sheathing underneath the roof structure.
Yeah, that is correct. There is 1 by slats, yes, that are currently functioning as sheathing between, I believe, the 2 foot spans of conventionally framed top boards.
So it'd be like battens.
Correct, more like battens.
Yeah. I think that's all I have for now.
No questions.
I have no questions.
I'm sorry, I have another question.
Go ahead.
And that has to do with, you have a proposal for recycling palletization. Could you be a little more explicit about that? Are we allowed to ask what they will do in the future? If they intend to reuse any of this, if we grant a demolition permit, if there's any plan to reuse? Okay. If we grant a demolition permit, is there any plan to reuse anything, the doors or any?
Yeah, so we'd love to reuse the doors. I mean, the doors are beautiful. The doors have absolutely no reason to go. We are proposing a cementitious siding material for the new accessory structure, which obviously omits using fibrous material. Which is why we proposed palletizing it and giving it to, or selling it to Schillers. We also, with HGC, have a division of education that we operate in as we teach young craftsmen how to work on craftsman homes. And so we plan, if that is not an avenue, to just use it in-house to communicate, to teach zipper applications of clapboard.
Okay, thank you.
I have no further questions as well. Anything additional from any other commissioners before we close?
All right.
Okay. Well, at this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for a rebuttal.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll close the public hearing and we can discuss the case. Would a commissioner like to discuss anything, or is a commissioner ready to make a motion?
I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness to demolish for ARC 21-308 for the property located at 907 South Dakota Avenue, that the agent has satisfied the requirements of Chapter 27, Section 2716F of the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, and has presented to us criteria sufficiently supporting a decision to demolish and demolish exclusively the accessory structure on this site.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Garrett Gilkey for the record again. Communicating again the original site plan here, to not kind of beat the horse again, but we have a setback issue here that we plan on resolving in the proposed site plan. So as you can see right now, there's some non-conforming nature to the location of this accessory structure. Pretty substantial 60-inch diameter trunk oak tree here that we again would like to stay away from. Keeping the location of the accessory structure in its current place allows us again to stay within the thread and consistency of a historic application of site plan configuration. Coming up the driveway here into the proposed space where then we'll have the garage space here. As you notice, we are choosing to keep the staircase on the north side of the property in the structure, and then we have a covered lanai porch that is adjacent. We do not have alley access from the rear, so that affords us our reduced nature and setback. Articulating a wall section here, building section. So currently right now, we're chasing after a monolithic bell footer for our foundation. And just slow me down if we have any issues. We have a 2x4 framed wall, 16 inches on center, PT bottom plate. We will have Advantech Huber system on it from a sheathing standpoint with a cementitious, hardy lap siding that is going to plan to match existing of the contributing home currently. Open web floor system and then a gelled one aluminum clad window system, and then traditional header type. All profile relationships of trim and siding are going to match the consistency of the home. We do have a 2x6 type rafter profile. We are going to bring a period specific nature to that presentation in framing a scab of 2x6 onto what is most likely going to be engineered trusses. So we will effectively create that profile by cutting the tails off the trusses and then framing back a 2x6 recessed about 3/4 of an inch to assume the same consistency of sheeting material on the roof deck, but then also giving us the ability to use a beadboard on the top of these exposed rafter tails, thus giving us our articulation of a period specific nature overhang. So the coachman style doors, we were in question about trying to keep the relative design features of this and of the home consistent here. So currently right now we have our existing elevations. We're proposing these two elevations here. As you can see on the right, we're keeping that same coachman style elongated 1/1 profile relationship. So we're choosing to use a 5V crimp metal sheathing for the eyebrow here. You will then see a matched relationship of windows with very similar brackets that we're going to be replicating relative to the existing structure. You will see then a very common profile relationship of just overhang lanai, exterior porch. I will walk through the material palette here shortly. Proposed north elevation, we're assuming the same outriggers for the barge overhangs that we have that we are going to be articulating in congruence with the existing structure. And so you'll see these gable vent details again articulated. Exposed rafter tails. Material palette, again, just walking from the top down here. Right now we're speccing a Drexel Metal DMC5V crimp profile, period specific and historic in its nature metal roof. We have for the main portion of the structure, GAF timberline asphalt shingle color match existing of the structure. Here you will see some representations of how we did that. So you will see the.
Could you zoom out? I'm sorry. Could you zoom out just a little bit? Thank you.
So you will see here some articulations of some current projects that we currently are doing in Hyde Park and the details relative. So you will see here we have pretty large outriggers and barge gable ends here, and you'll see that there is a period specific nature to the undertone and the sheathing of those cords. You'll see softened porch detail here, tongue and groove wood beadboard painted. You'll see the wood beam to column detail. You'll see the proud relationship, which is a consistent orientation here. A proud relationship of the crown molding to the beams and columns. This is a new construction application of a period specific profile relationship with cementitious materials. This is 319 West Francis. You will see this is all Hardy. I believe it's Hardy Artisan. And what you'll see is the proposed, again, this is a proposed column detail articulated in a period specific orientation relative to dimension. You'll see a proud relationship here between these the casing here, trim boards on the windows, and what again is not relative to this project, but siding. You'll also see the ability for us to articulate those pretty substantial and strong proud orientations of material in the new application of lap siding relative to corner boards. So we will be chasing after the shadow that is presented here. You'll see it up here as well. And again, this is next to a board and batten in a flat material. This still articulates it relative to being applied on top of a full lap siding. 2x6 with 4x4 wood brackets to match existing profile. So we will use pressure treated material for our brackets and our outriggers. Again, you can see here pretty well articulated shadowing effect. You see that shadowing here as well, which is very quintessential to period specific homes. We're going to use a Geldman sightline clad wood casement. So this is relative, an exterior white, bone finish, interior finish, Americano. Planning on using the Geldman Craftsman flat panel garage door, color to be determined. Same thing, Geldman carriage house entry door, 2 or 3 light over 1. This gives you an articulation of the balcony design. 6-inch wood posts, I think is specific for us to discuss. Handles, we're planning on using period-specific colonial lift handles, colonial strap hinge, Copley Coachman carriage doors to match existing what is currently there. We do plan on, again, chasing after the same design of what we have, and you can see that we articulated that in the massing of what's been designed and presented in our front elevation. We are planning on using a composite wood decking, so right now we have Spec Trucks Transcendent. Vintage Lantern is the color material. We also have historic red brick pavers from Old Castle, Chicago style pattern will be basket weave. A couple assumptions on hardware and fixtures. Restoration hardware, Tamalo brass knob, finished oil rub bronze. That's the hardware for the entry door. Underneath the lanai, we plan on, or the covered deck, we plan on having ceiling flush mount light fixture, Restoration hardware, Pacifica 12-inch lantern, finished oil rub bronze. Exterior wall sconce, again, Restoration hardware, Pacifica lantern finish, oil rubbed. That concludes the new construction presentation.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, staff of the Historic Preservation. On page 5 of the staff report, all the conditions were addressed through the presentation, Staff finds that this application is consistent with the Hyde Park Design Guidelines with the plans that were reviewed on July 16, 2021. I'll be here to answer any questions. Thank you.
All right. So at this point, we'll open the hearing to any public comment. Seeing and hearing none, we'll move to the commissioners can now ask questions for the new build portion. Does the commissioner like to begin?
I have a question, please, sir. If you could refer back to a combination of your building elevations and your building section, if that's possible.
Yeah. What's in reference here? I'm sorry.
Well, on your building section, you made a presentation on how you're dealing with your building siding. But at the foundation line where you have your turned down slab, we see no definition of material there outside of the concrete. If we take a look at your elevations, you're showing us a diagram that shows siding all the way down to ground. What's happening in this location?
Yeah, I would say from a civil standpoint, that hasn't been determined. So understanding our topo is going to inform that. What's been pretty common for us is trying to chase after, because it's a cementitious material, we're not as concerned about it. Often we do have just an exposed concrete orientation there. Often we will bring grade up to that location of where the cementitious siding starts. So I don't have that drawn yet.
Okay, so that's not.
That will
That's
take
not in the
place.
mix for tonight.
That's not usually in the mix for tonight. However, that unfolds through the process of developing CDs and finalizing CDs.
Thank you very much.
Most assumptions are that, and I think in previous projects we've done, most projects we've done, I think we take it to grade.
As opposed to some other representation of material or.
Yeah, often when we do like pillars, we'll often throw like a basket weave in there, or we'll have a continuous footer with a proud orientation of like brick material there. So we don't have any indicators relative to the pre-existing on the site that I think inform us to that. And so the home is on piers, which clearly again present a different application. So we don't have a precedent for that influence, which is why often, just relative to the civil work, it usually terminates, the cementitious material usually terminates at grade. And then often, because most of the structures we do in Hyde Park are non-contributing ADUs, we're able to use cementitious material. So often that doesn't put us in a risk orientation of having a fibrous material too close to the ground.
Thank you very much.
Commissioner Myers?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Taylor?
I have none at this time.
No questions.
No questions.
I only have one question. So you presented about 3 or 4 different types of columns in the presentation of what you'll be presenting. I'm looking at the images of the existing house. There are some columns on the back for the porch. Is your intention that the details within those columns to match those, or are they going to be a little bit more simplified version, or what?
Yeah, that's a great question. My first response would be no, just because it is architecturally, I think, inappropriate relative to the scale of the structure and what is often presented in this front elevation, which is often presented in these front elevations, which is a more substantiated, proud column detail.
I meant on the back elevation, sorry.
Oh, the existing back elevation, which I don't have in front of me.
Okay.
My first response would be that was not the most architecturally accurate representation of an addition. So I would theoretically not like to follow suit in that, and probably chase more of a appropriate profile relationship in column size.
Okay. Any other additional questions? All right. Well, at this point, the applicant is allowed 5 minutes for a rebuttal.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll close the public hearing and can now discuss the case. Is there anything the commissioner would like to discuss for the new build portion? Okay.
All I can say is that, again, we're dealing with design presentation today that is more detailed, but still very schematic in its nature. There's a number of little things that stand out that will require some further coordination, just a few minor items. Column, for instance, that foundation line along the grade. I would also add picket rails and railings for the stair and the balcony, that those can very easily be coordinated with staff as this detailing is worked out in permitting and into the field.
Would you like that to be a condition?
I think it would be appropriate because we're dealing with three elements here that are pretty significant for a small building that need to get cleaned up.
Okay. Would you like to make a motion to make sure those are included?
Yes, allow me then. Gotta get the right one. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at this public hearing in ARC number 21308 for the property located at 907 South Dakota Avenue with the following conditions: that the following detail items are coordinated with staff and shall include exterior columns, exterior pickets and rails for stairs and balconies, as well as the fit and finish of final detailing at the foundation line along grade. Because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the Hyde Park Historic District design guidelines of the City of Tampa for the following reasons: that the materials, scale, massing, and form are consistent with its parent primary resident dwelling on site.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against? I'm sorry, what?
He needed to approve the conditions.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. So, do you understand the conditions as they were stated?
Derek Gilkey for the record, conditions
Okay.
accepted.
All right, and then all in favor again?
Aye.
Aye. Against? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, meeting is adjourned.
I seen you before, got a different name, but is it the same old heartache coming